Okay, this is just the cream of the crop right here in chapter 9. Okay, so Daniel 9. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus. Oh, hey, that's the guy who married Esther, if this is the same guy. Okay. All right, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, okay, of the lineage of the Medes, and that's where he was, okay, who was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of the years specified by the word of the Lord through Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. Okay, so this is talking about how, if they were bad, they'd be punished for 70 years, and then they'd be brought back in. And that's in the Bible and the prophecies and all that. So, and it's somewhere in the law, stuff about that too, like he's making up for what they took away with the rest of the land and stuff. So this is what he's talking about here. So he noticed those things. Okay, Daniel. All right, now 3. Then I set my face toward the Lord God to make request by prayer and supplications. With fasting, sackcloth, and ashes. And I prayed to the Lord my God, and made confession, and said, O Lord, great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant and mercy with those who love him, and with those who keep his commandments, we have sinned and committed iniquity. We have done wickedly and rebelled, even by departing from your precepts and your judgments. Neither have we heeded your servants the prophets, who spoke in your name to our kings and our princes, to our fathers and all the people of the land. O Lord, righteousness belongs to you, but to us shame of face. And as it is this day, to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and all Israel, those near and those far off in all the countries to which you have driven them, because of the unfaithfulness which they have committed against you. O Lord, to us belongs shame of face, to our kings, to our princes and our fathers, because we have sinned against you. To the Lord our God belong mercy and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. We have not obeyed the voice of the Lord our God to walk in his ways, which he set before us by his servants the prophets. Yes, all Israel has transgressed your law and has departed, so as not to obey your voice. Therefore the curse and the oath written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, have been poured out on us, because we have sinned against him. And he has confirmed his words, which he spoke against us and against our judges, who judged us, by bringing upon us a great disaster. For under the whole heaven such has never been done as what has been done to Jerusalem. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this disaster has come upon us, yet we have not made our prayer before the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand your truth. Therefore the Lord has kept the disaster in mind and brought it upon us, for the Lord our God is righteous in all the works which he does, though we have not obeyed his voice. And now, O Lord our God, who brought your people out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand and made yourself a name, as it is this day. We have sinned, we have done wickedly. O Lord, according to all your righteousness, I pray, let your anger and your fury be turned away from your city, Jerusalem, your holy mountain, because for our sins and for the iniquities of our fathers, Jerusalem and your people are a reproach to all those around us. Now, therefore, our God, hear the prayer of your servant and his supplications, and for the Lord's sake cause your face to shine on your sanctuary, which is desolate. O my God, incline your ear and hear. Open your eyes and see our desolations and the city which is called by your name, for we do not present our supplications before you because of our righteous deeds, but because of your great mercies. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, listen and act. Do not delay for your own sake, my God, for your city and your people are called by your name. Okay, now ends his prayer. And what I find interesting in this is this, well, of course, it's a whole beautiful part of this dramatic opera, but in this, I also see a type of Christ because, Daniel makes this great intercession for the people. And in this, he literally, I see like how he takes on their sin. I mean, nobody can do it, of course, but it's a type of Jesus because, this is Daniel talking. Daniel who walked upright. He was picky with every little thing. He did everything by the book. He was the one who didn't want to be defiled with the king's delicate foods and all that stuff. So he was one of those nitpicky ones. And I can imagine he really did things, uprightly in every way. And here he is taking this on. We have sinned, we have done wrong, all that stuff. We haven't obeyed. And it's such a, humble thing for him to do. So I don't know, I kind of see that in this, and the fact that what was I going to say? In one place, there's a place where God even says something like, even if these 3 patriarchs came before me, I still wouldn't spare that, thing or do that thing or relent from this or that. I forgot what it was. And he mentioned, I think it was Noah, Job, and Daniel. He was on the short list, okay? He was really doing it right. And so, again, for him to do that is really, it's amazing, and it's very touching that he does this and puts himself in there with them. And it just makes me think of Jesus, who was perfect, taking on our sin and interceding for us so we can be redeemed. So this is a picture of that, and here's what I see. Now, of course, Daniel wasn't perfect, but he was really a good example of how close you could probably get as a human, one of those examples. So anyway, he was really doing everything, just every little detail, and very conscientious about honoring God in the right way and everything. So that's what I find remarkably interesting, is how he says these things over and over. We have done this, us, Anyway, so that I wanted to share for sure. And now we get to this. This is just the best prophecy. Wow. Okay. The 70 weeks prophecy. Okay, 20. Now, while I was speaking, praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God. Yes, while I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, reached me about the time of the evening offering. And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I have now come forth to give you skill to understand. At the beginning of your supplications, the command went out, and I have come to tell you, for you are greatly beloved. Therefore consider the matter and understand the vision. Here we go. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. I'll go over it and then I'll come back, okay? Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood, and till the end of the war, desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. Okay, so now to go over this, and then 10, 11, and 12 I'll do together. That's a whole other thing. This is this famous prophecy about the timing of the arrival of the Messiah. And so going over this, so here, let me get the markers out, because I'm gonna be using a lot of that. This and that. Okay, so I'll just be moving back and forth here. All right, now, reading this again, we have 70 weeks. Now, what people don't know here, it's weeks of years. So a week of years, just like a week of days, a week of days is 7 days, right? Well, a week of years is 7 years. That's the week of years. And here it says 70 weeks of years are determined. So here, 70. So we have 70 of these, okay? So you multiply 70 times 7 and you get 490 years. So the whole time period being discussed is a period of 490 years, but it's broken up into parts. Okay? All right. Now, 70 weeks are determined for your people. So this is for those people, okay? Daniel's people, ethnically, okay? And for your holy city. So it's going to be, this is about that, okay? It's about Jerusalem and the inhabitants, okay? All right. And then to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness. This comes eventually to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Okay, so there's that. All right. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command. Okay, so now we're getting down to it. Let me erase this. I'm going to need this. The command. To restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince. Okay, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. Okay, so here, let's get back to the whiteboard. So we have So we have 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Okay, so 62 and 7, we'll do some math today, is 69. So altogether, we have 69 weeks. And later we have 1 week. Let me make this smaller. 1 week. So 69 plus 1 is 70 weeks of years, okay? This 1 week comes up at the end. This is the 7-year tribulation. And some people say there's no such period mentioned, and yes, there is. There is this 7-year tribulation. Okay. Anyway, this is at the end, and there's so many of these little time gaps in the Bible. It'll mention this, and then there's it mentions the next thing, and there'll be hundreds of years in between the prophecies. Well, this is one of these things that's cut up. So this is the first picture. All right. Altogether, you have the 490 years. But this is the 70 weeks of years, which is that altogether. Now, coming back to this, okay, so here, so some people would wonder, well, why are these years split up? So you have 7 weeks of years, and then you have 62 weeks of years. And I'll get to this, okay? And it says, restore and rebuild Jerusalem, and the walls and the streets and all this will be built. And here it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and rebuild or build Jerusalem up until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. All right, and then all of this stuff until he comes. And then here, and after the 62 weeks, so what happens is the 7 weeks come first, and then come the 62 weeks. These are separate periods. Okay, so I'll do this because I'll get to that. After all, from the time it starts until the end of this is when we get to there, until Messiah the Prince comes. Okay, there shall be this, and that. Okay, all right, and I'm going to get to that. And then here, and after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. So we know what that is, obviously. All right, read Isaiah 53 if you don't know. Okay, and the people of the prince who is to come. So now we have this. The people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. All right, now then it comes to this. The end of it shall be with a flood, and till the end of the war desolations are determined. This is more at the end, because in Revelation it says there'll be a flood over there and it'll be kind of swallowed up. So it jumps around, but this is later. And then here, this part, then he shall confirm. Oh, let me put this back. Might as well. I'll be back to that in a minute. Okay, so I was just going over all this again. All right. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. So this is the 7-year covenant that the Antichrist makes. And this is that same 7-year period. And many say this is when, that's going to allow them to do all the stuff they want to do over there. So all these little concessions are made. But it says with many for 1 week. It's not specific. And a lot of them, that's another misunderstanding or deception or whatever. They try to make it that the Antichrist will make a covenant for 7 years with a particular nation or so. And there are variations of who they think that is. But like between Israel and the Arab countries or something like that. It doesn't get that specific. It says he, that's the Antichrist, will make a covenant with many for 1 week. Okay, this could be separate covenants. Each one with many could have one for 1 week. We don't know. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to. So the middle of the week, again, is the middle of that period. So 3.5 years are the first half and 3.5 years are the second half. In the middle, he does this, and that's when the Great Tribulation starts, the second half of this 3.5 year period. It's at the end, it's really bad. Okay, so he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, because what's going to happen is they're going to have the temple back up, and eventually it'll be a functioning temple. Okay, and it's obsolete, but this is what they're going to be doing. And he's going to, in 2 Thessalonians 2, he's going to be sitting, he's going to declare himself God and sit on the throne. So that's where that's headed, okay? But anyway, on the wing of abominations, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate. So this whole thing, what he does, will make it desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. So this is the end of the end of the end, okay? But this is what he does. And then all this stuff also goes on during that last 3.5 year Great Tribulation period. But jumping back to here, so that's just that, okay? But jumping back to here, this shall destroy the city and sanctuary. Well, this happened in 70 AD. That wasn't the Antichrist, but that empire, the people, okay, of the prince who is to come, shall destroy the city and sanctuary. The city and the sanctuary, the temple in Jerusalem, were destroyed in 70 AD. So this prophecy is fulfilled up until here. Okay, so we have that part. And then this happens later. But that's the last week that it's talking about. There's that split in the middle. You get the 69 weeks and the first arrival, and then the split, which is the church age gap, and then you get the 70th week, that one last week before, and then the second arrival of the Messiah. So, okay, now, another thing to unpack, it says, and the people, so the people do this, it's not the Antichrist, okay? And this is the Romans, okay? The Romans did this. So now it's interesting here, and the people, these are the Romans, the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. So that's how we know there is something Roman or around there, you know what I mean, about the Antichrist, okay, of the prince who is to come. That's this one. Then that jumps back to that. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week and all that stuff, with the temple. That's the same thing, the same guy. So we got this, and then we got this, after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. Now I'm going to get to that stuff. So back to this. To restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. So now I'm going to whip out my notes, okay, and come over here to all this stuff I have. Oh, Okay, so what we have is this. Okay, first of all, there were different dates given here, but okay, so we had the 7 weeks of years are 49 years, because it's 7 times 7 years, 49 years. Then 62 weeks of years come up to 434 years. If you add all these, you get 69, and this is 483 years. And yeah, I gotta put this back. All right, so we get this. So 7 weeks of years is 49. 7 times 7 years is 49 years. 62 weeks of years is 434 years. You add these, you get 69 weeks of years, which is 483 years. Again, 70 weeks of years is 490. Take that 1 week away, so you get 483 minus 490 minus 7. You get that. Okay, so now we know the last week of 7 years is at the end, the tribulation time, so we're just going to be dealing with these, okay? So apparently, and I did all this research last night, and my notes look like the blackboard of a nutty professor. But all right, so we have this was the 49 years was they had from the time of the decree. Okay, so here's the decree, and I'll get to the dates soon. Decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. And then there's some stuff about this is the Jerusalem, and then the other thing is the temple. So, okay, I'll just do this Jerusalem / temple. Okay. Temple until the walls and temple were complete. So this was that much time, okay? This 49 years. So once they were complete, then we had this period here, which was just they were living there for that amount of time, 434 years. And that's the 62 weeks of years. And then we have, okay, I talked about that. Now let me go to this page, and I'll put the dates here, okay? So, save that somehow. I'm going to have to erase it for the moment and come back. Okay, now we had these dates where there were various decrees here. There was another thing. Okay, so we had Cyrus, that guy. And there were various ones. Okay, so there was the 500, I heard 538, 539 BC. This is all BC, of course. All right, and then we had Darius. He did stuff like this, and it was, I've heard this date, 521 and 515 BC. Then there was this guy, Artaxerxes, and there were different dates here too. There was 457, 458 BC, and then there was a 445, 444 BC. So they gave commands to restore and rebuild, and it was like, the city of Jerusalem, the walls or the temple, and there were stages of this, okay? So various time periods were here, but they looked back, and it was a 49-year period between the start and the finish. So that's where we get the 7 weeks of years. And then the 62 weeks of years, which were the 434 years, were after that was done until later when the Messiah comes. Okay, so, all right, so we have this. Then there were these things about Yeah, there. Okay, well, let me first go over this thing. It might be on have pages. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so somebody said you take the 444 till 395. This was the 49-year period from this decree till this time. And then you had the 49. And then from here, that that's when the 434-year period started. And if you go from there till the other thing, it was either 39 or something. But then if you took the 515 one, and it was 483 exactly, and or 516, there was something with this, and then 483, and then you got to the 33 AD. Okay, now there is a little leeway here because there is some debate about the year zero. Okay, so we have BC and AD, and there was something about a year or two off one way or the other. So you have to keep in mind with that and with everything else, there's a little leeway, but in general, the real thing is down to the dotting of the I and the crossing of the T. But they're just trying to go back to the records and get this all pinned down. And that's why there's discussion about the year zero a little bit, more or less, it's there. So we get to this year, okay, and this leads you right to the date of, now somebody had it like a week to the crucifixion when he's cut off, but the week was, that led you right to the day. That week in between was Holy Week. So this led you right to the day of the triumphal entry when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. And what did he say there? He said, that they didn't recognize the day of their visitation. They were supposed to use these calculations to come down, get out their calendars and their paper and pen with whatever they had and work this out and get to the date. Well, they didn't do that and they missed the boat. So long story short is that that date has come and gone, and the expiration date is over. The city has been destroyed. The temple, everything, has been destroyed. All that has been fulfilled, and the Messiah has come and gone. And that's it. It's done. There is nobody else who can fill those shoes. Nobody else is coming. That's the real deal, okay? So that was Jesus. And he has two arrivals. There's the first arrival and there's the second arrival. Okay, in the first arrival, he takes care of some certain business. In the second arrival, he comes to claim the kingdom. So it's split in two. It's another time gap. Okay, so that's it. There is no other way. There's nobody else who can fulfill this. There's nothing else that can happen that anybody can possibly be waiting for. All right, now, okay, so I'll leave this here another second, and then I'm going to get to something else. That's another, wow, mind blower thing, right? Okay, so this right here is already proof. Okay, you can argue about the year 30. Somebody said about to the year 1 AD in here, but then you had 34, and then that would bring you to 33 years. You can haggle back and forth about the year zero. 1 year this way or that way isn't going to change anything. I mean, the fact of the matter is this was it. There's no way otherwise to fulfill this. I mean, again, somebody's calculation that they recorded might have, they put this year and it was another year, 1 year later or before. I mean, this is it. There's nothing else in the ballpark that could do this, get this fulfilled. So, anyway, that's it here. And now the next thing that's just a mind blower. It is just like, wow, is this thing. And this is where it gets, they had the year 30 AD. Okay. And then you have the year 70 AD. Okay, there's a 40-year period in between this. 40 years. That's where they were saying they think this is actually 33, and they were just, that calculation recording was off a little by a few years, but that the crucifixion was actually here. And he was 33. So again, there was that year zero thing that maybe shifted a little. But anyway, now, okay, consider from that, this is what they said, from the year 30 AD to the year 70 AD, when the temple in Jerusalem were destroyed by the Romans, okay? There's a 40-year period. 40 is a significant number in the Bible. 7 and sevens and, 40. Okay, now, this is something I discovered last night. One of the details I knew, but the others I didn't know yet. This is something that's been recorded historically by non-Christian historians, okay, that have recorded this. It's actually in a Jewish textbook or whatever, called the Talmud. They recorded this in there, that from the time Jesus died, which they said was here, till here, these 40 years, these things were going on, okay? Number one, they recorded this. They weren't believers, okay? All right. The religious leaders who were in charge of the temple and everything, that the temple doors would not remain shut. And overnight, they would mysteriously open of their own accord. Yeah, temple doors would open nightly. I know. Can't you just hear the creaking of that? Oh, my goodness. Okay. And two, they had that menorah lampstand, in the temple that I talked about. Well, there was, and here I'll make another drawing, okay? So it would be like this. Here's the lampstand. And here would be the main light, okay? The main lamp of the temple lampstand, menorah, went out at night. This would go out every night in the temple, no matter what they did to prevent that. Okay, so the lamp or main lamp on stand went out nightly. Okay, no matter what they did. Okay, now they had this thing. This I knew about this one. They had a piece of wool. And here it says a cloth, but it could be wool cloth. Okay, it would be crimson red, and this was from what was in the Bible. Let me get to that. So a crimson red, I'll just say wool, could have been fleece. There were different terms used. Okay, wool was put on a scapegoat. And temple door. Once a year, and this was the Day of Atonement thing, okay? And what they used to do was they would put that there, and it would turn white, I think, overnight, but it would turn white. And that would symbolize that their sins were atoned for and they were forgiven. Okay, that was what would happen. And what would happen now was it wouldn't turn white anymore. It would remain red. Okay, so once a year they did this, and it did not turn white at that day, but it remained red. So it did not turn white, remained red. Okay, so what does that say? I mean, it's all symbolic. And then the fourth item was, this is the thing too, like they had that in the Old Testament, that scapegoat thing. And apparently the Bible has it in, I think, Leviticus, where they're supposed to take, it was 2 goats, and 1 goat would be for the Lord and it would be sacrificed, and the other goat was the scapegoat. And they would pray over it, confess their sins, and let it go. And it would be like the scapegoat takes the sins away into the wilderness, kind of a thing. That was the procedure. There may have been more details, but that was the procedure. Well, they changed it a little bit, and they would have 1 goat, and they would have this selection process where they had a bag or a box or something, and inside was a white stone and a black stone. Okay, and I guess the high priest, he couldn't look, and he would dip his hand in and pick out a stone, and he didn't know would it be white or black. Okay, and if it was white, then the goat would be sacrificed, and if it was black, it would be the scapegoat, and that's how they changed it. So I think it was supposed to be that white meant you'd be forgiven and it was a good omen, and black, it was bad, they wouldn't be. And that's what I read on this account. Okay, so it explained all this. And so what happened was that for 40 years, every time they pulled a stone out, it was a black stone. Okay, and just the chances statistically of this happening, I mean, if you know anything about statistics of, probability, chance, lottery stuff, if you have 2 stones and they feel the same, let's say if you can't see them and you pull out one of them and you don't know if it's white or black, 50%, half of the time it will be white and half of the time it will be black. It really falls into that pattern. So like if you had 3, 1/3 of the time it would be this one, or one of the others. So that is how it would work out before, that 50-50, and those are the chances, and that's how it statistically would work out. Okay, and so this is almost impossible that then after that it was always black. 100% of the time it was black. And they did the calculation on the chances of that happening for 40 years in a row, and it was like so close to 0, right? It was, like this was all a sign. It was all of this was a miracle that, this wouldn't naturally happen, that every time it's black, and not white, black, right? So all of this happened for that 40-year period. These are miracle signs here, that Jesus is the Messiah, and it's fulfilled. Okay, this wasn't received anymore. It was obsolete. And if they repented, 40 years to repent, right? They had that time. If they did, they did. If they didn't, well, then you know what happened in 70 AD. So anyway, and then that brings us back to the verse I read in Zechariah the other day. But I won't go over all that again. I'm just going to leave it at this. And that is another proof right there. And I just found this out. It was another mind blower. Just pop, right? I mean, if people don't see it with this, they're never going to see it. I don't know. Okay, so if you're one of those people that just saw it and you don't know what to do, okay, here's what you do. Get a Bible, get like a one with the New Testament in it, and get like a King James, New King James version. Read it, read the New Testament, then read the Old Testament, and you'll see. And, I have videos about the gospel. It's number 6 and number 16. And watch all the videos because I go over this kind of stuff. But just, repent, get in your closet, turn to Jesus, get saved, and pray. And you'll get saved. And, you know all this, what this is about. So, okay. All right, I'm going to end this video and then I'll be back for the last one.